Welcome back to another YouTube video. I'm Meowatic as always, and today I want to talk about an old classic of a deck which I've seen brought back and I decided to bring back for myself. Green-white token control. I've played this deck a bit, I've done well on ladder with it. In fact, it's one of my strongest decks. I don't play it too often because of how long the games take, but if you're going to play this deck in a tournament where you're going to be playing long rounds anyway, it's definitely a great choice. So let's talk about green-white tokens. Let's bring our guy over. And let's start with, so what's different about this deck versus mono-white tokens? And the easy answer is we have Up the Beanstalk over Enduring Innocence. And we have Overlord of the Hauntwoods as another token maker / bean enabler. Past that, the deck is very similar, with Carrot Cake, with removal, with sweepers, with Beza. You want to control the board, you want to draw a million cards, and once the board is empty, you have 10 plus lands, you have 7 cards in hand. You just assemble a win with Overlords, and you end the game. So let's go over the cards, shall we? Starting with Authority of the Consuls. A 1-of card which made it into the main deck because this deck struggles a little bit with aggro decks. Red aggro, especially the faster variants, cause problems. We don't really struggle with the slower Innkeeper's Talent decks, but the very fast, very haste creature versions, they cause us issues. So we've got this there. Plus it pairs amazingly with Split Up, destroying all tapped creatures, so your opponent, if they attack, and they want to play some untapped creatures post-combat, they just can't do that. At our 2-drop slot, we have the classic Carrot Cake, a seemingly silly common from Burrow, but one of the most important cards of the deck. It makes a rabbit when it enters, and when you sack it, as well as it scries. The biggest piece about this card is that it doesn't just work with Caretaker's talent, allowing us to draw on both our turn and the opponent's turn, but it makes tokens for Fountainport. This is your token maker for both talent and Fountainport. You have 7 draw effects which combo with Carrot Cake. This is why you need 4 copies of it. Plus, it provides good life gain, which you will find with this deck you need a reasonable amount of time. So you can't do less than 4. We have 3 copies of Get Lost, my least favorite card in Standard, but absolutely necessary, seeing as how white just doesn't have access to good removal right now. So we have to play it. All white removal is conditional. This isn't. It destroys just about anything except for artifacts, but it gives your opponent map tokens. So we're playing 3, not 4. You need it, but you don't want to love it. Speaking of a card you do want to love, Up the Beanstalk, the Mistake of Wilds of Eldraine. A 2-mana enchantment which draws a card when it enters and whenever you cast a spell with mana value 5 or greater. So with 15 cards which cost 5 mana or more, most of which being able to be played for a cheaper cost, this card could draw easily 4 or 5 cards over the course of the game. Again, on our Burrow Mistakes cards, we have Caretaker's Talent, allowing us to draw a card whenever 1 or more tokens you control enter. Once a turn, but that's not too big a deal. Copying a token we control, and at the final level, giving all of our creature tokens a whopping +2/+2, allowing us to win the game with just a couple of rabbit tokens. A 3-of instead of 4-of because the meta is aggressive and you don't always have time to play out a 3-mana enchantment which doesn't do anything until later turns. Speaking on the aggressive meta, 2 copies of Split Up, allowing us to effectively take care of haste creature decks because all their creatures are always tapped, flood the board decks which make it stalled out a bit by our own creatures, or just getting good value against most creature decks, seeing as how they like to flood the board these days. Speaking of beating the aggro decks, 3 copies of Beza Bounding Spring, a legendary 4-mana 4/5 with 7 lines of text that gains life, makes treasure tokens, makes fish tokens, and draws cards sometimes. It's a 3-of because yes, this card is legendary. It's very hard to kill, which is why it's awkward to play 4, because it's very unlikely to die. But it is an exceptionally powerful card that just completely bricks board states while gaining you life back. Followed up with all of our 5+ mana cards. Each of these triggers Up the Beanstalk, including another Burrow common, Luminous Rebuke. 5 mana, destroy target creature, costing 3 less if it targets a tapped creature. Yes, even if you spend only 2 mana on this card, you still trigger Up the Beanstalk because this says mana value, not mana spent. So we can destroy tapped creatures when they're attacking. After they've attacked, if your opponent plays a turn 2 Emberheart Challenger, you can kill it on your turn once you play your second land without giving them the opportunity to hold up Snakeskin Veil. Followed up, we have 1 copy of Season of the Burrow, a card which I've loved at many points. It's a bit awkward of a meta to use this, since a lot of decks are more aggressive and less removal heavy, but if you're playing against a mirror or any deck where they want to destroy your talents or your beans, this card is an amazing value swing. Plus, it can exile any non-land permanent, allowing us to answer Enduring Curiosity and Kaito in the same card. But it's a 1-of because it's a bit weak against aggro. 1 card which is not really weak against anything, Sunfall. A 5 mana, exile all creatures, incubate X, where X is the number of creatures exiled this way. It is a 5 mana card, it triggers beans, it makes a token, it triggers Caretaker's talent, it makes a big creature, it wins the game. It exiles, it doesn't let Heartfire Hero trigger. It costs 1 extra mana, but the effects this card provides over Day of Judgment, it is incomparable. You play this over Day of Judgment, I don't think that the 1 mana discount is worth anything. Play Sunfall, it does everything you need to do and more. Up next, we have the cards which sort of make this green-white deck what it is. 4 copies of Overlord of the Hauntwoods and 3 of Overlord of the Mistmoors. Overlord of the Hauntwoods, making a token, costing 5 mana, triggering beans, allowing you to go turn 2 beans, turn 3 Overlord, and triggering Caretaker's talent. The biggest thing about the Overlord of the Hauntwoods is it makes an everywhere token, a land token, which can be copied by Caretaker's talent because this does not specify creature token, just anything. Plus, the nice bonus you have, the enter tapped everywhere comes from the Overlord, not the token itself. So when you copy an everywhere token with Caretaker's talent, you will get an untapped version of it, allowing you to keep playing on that same turn. Followed up, we have 3 copies of Overlord of the Mistmoors, triggers beans, triggers Caretaker's talent, wins games, amazing card all around. It's a 3-of right now because again, red aggro is everywhere. Sometimes you just don't have enough time to play this guy out. But these are your game winners. Back when I played mono white tokens, and this deck had some popularity, it was a bit rough for the mono white list because with 7 Overlords, you have so much late game and such great beaters. With that said, let's look at the lands. We unfortunately cannot play Lay Down Arms with this mana base. We only have 8 plains. So, aside from that, we have the classic 4 Brushlands, 4 Hushwood Verges. We have 3 Razorverge Thickets and only 2 Lush Porticos, alongside 1 Sunken Citadel, because you need untapped lands for turn after turn after turn. You don't want to get to turn 4 wanting to play Beza or Overlord and get stuck with Razorverge Thicket or Lush Portico or Sunken Citadel. This is why these cards are not 4-ofs. As strong as their effects may be, it can be a little too detrimental to have a tap land. So, we have 6 tap lands. We have 6 plains, 1 forest, because the deck is most entirely white, but you have the 1 forest in case you get demo fielded. And finally, the most important land, which I would not play this deck without 4 copies, Fountainport. It draws cards off your rabbit tokens, it makes new tokens, it makes treasure tokens. This is your secret 8th through 11th value engine. This is why you do not need a 4/4. This card does everything you need to do in this deck and more. If you see a hand with Fountainport, you may as well keep it because it's just that good. So you need 4. If you're going to use rare wild cards on this deck, use them on Fountainport. And then Sunken Citadel because it triggers Fountainport, but it's a little bit clunky. With that said, we've got the lands. Let's look at the sideboard. 2 more copies of Authority of the Consuls. Again, we struggle against red aggro decks, specifically the very hasty versions. The slower Innkeeper's Talent, Paw Patch Recruit aren't that big of a deal. You have a lot more time to answer stuff. You have a lot more time to play Beza. But the decks that are just going Swift Spear, Ember Heart Challenger, Screaming Nemesis, they're just playing haste creature after haste creature after haste creature. You need Authority of the Consuls. Plus this turns Arabesque Forge into you get to gain 1 life every turn. So, great card. 3 copies of Elspeth Smite. Still good. Unfortunately, traditional Dimir is on the decline. Super Speedy Red is on the decline. These bigger Gruul decks are going up. Their creatures have more toughness. They attack slower. Plus, this card is very clunky. So, we have 3 copies. Of course, 20% of our sideboard. It's still necessary against all these aggro decks, so you don't die. Speaking of necessary cards so you don't die, 2 copies of Rest in Peace. The best graveyard hate in the format, the best graveyard hate maybe of all time. I have 2 copies because I don't play against that many graveyard decks. But if you find yourself playing a lot of Oculus decks, a lot of Omniscience combo, a lot of Delirium, a lot of Simic Terror, go up to 3 or even 4 copies of Rest in Peace because this is a 1 card win the game against those decks. Up next, Vivien Reid, and in the same vein, Nissa. There she is, Nissa Ascended Animist. 2 cards which answer artifacts, which we cannot do in the main deck because get lost. Hits 3 things, artifacts are not one of them. So we have these big planeswalkers, good against domain, good against other token control decks that answer these artifacts, and also just win the game. They provide a bit of a different role. Vivien is cheaper. She can also kill flyers if you need them. She digs for your important cards if you need them. And Nissa, more expensive, up to 7 mana, but wins the game really fast. If you wanted to, you could play 2 Vivien, you could play 2 Nissa if that's what you have. It's not that big a deal. They're very similar. Speaking of more artifact hate, we have 2 Tear Asunder. You might be asking, hey, is this a black card in a green-white deck? Yes. We have 4 Overlords, 3 Beza, who makes a treasure, and Fountainport, which makes a treasure. If you need it, you have 11 black sources. But this card, it answers Enduring Curiosity. If kicked, it answers Kaito. It's still a great card to have. It answers In the Mirror. Caretaker's Talent, it answers Beans against domain. It answers Overlords. It's a great card to have. Then we have 1 Tranquil Frillback. Your do-everything guy. Gains life. Exiles graveyards. Destroys artifacts and enchantments. I've been bringing him against aggro decks these days because they do play Innkeeper's Talent. And you can't hate the life gain. But this guy comes in almost often enough to be main board if he wasn't so clunky. Up next, we have Serra Paragon, a card which a lot of people love. I'm a bit lower on. She may be getting replaced fairly soon, but for now, she's in here to beat those decks that just try to You know, they try to fight you on value. Mirrors, where they take out their removal, they put in their their enchantment hate. Serra Paragon wins. And finally, everybody's favorite, the destroyer of pixie decks, Obstinate Baloth. A card which is lovely to have in the sideboard. You can even bring it in against aggro decks. It is a good blocker. It does gain 4 life. But this card is really here to demolish those pixie decks. One thing I've noticed playing both sides of the pixie matchup is the pixie deck does not win against the deck we are playing token control very easily without Hopeless Nightmare. So you can punish them for playing Hopeless Nightmare by just dropping in a free 4/4 that gains 4 life. And with that said, that is the end of the deck tech. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you enjoyed the gameplay. Goodbye. Hello, welcome back. This time we are on the play. We have a hand which does nothing, but we have a Surveil, we have a Beans, we have a Sunfall, if they're on something slow, and no, they are not. For a time I was seeing less red aggro, but I've started seeing a massive influx of Gruul decks, specifically the Leyline decks, which our opponent is not on because I have Innkeeper's Talent. But it's something I've been seeing a lot of. So hopefully they have a haste creature here. Beza's a great draw. If we don't win with this draw, we are in a bad matchup. Haste creature. They don't have a land. They're looking for a land, which is always good for us. You hate it when they have the land and they're just looking for Monstrous Rage. No creature. Alright, perfect split up. Start all tapped creatures. The split up is becoming a bit of a necessity in this deck with how popular these flood the board creature decks are becoming. Up to level 3. Unfortunately, we don't get creatures off Beza, but we can't not play a creature when they have the Innkeeper's Talent and 4 cards in hand. That is just too much potential damage. It looks like they don't have a creature. Seems I have no choice but to attack. I can make a fish, although realistically, with how little they've been doing, they probably have a Monstrous Rage. So if they have a haste creature, I am taking my entire life total. Okay. I can no longer in good conscience split up that. That is a 13/13 Hardfire Hero. Why did I do it now? I don't know. I have to Sunfall this. I have no choice. I cannot split up the 13/13 1-mana card. I can do that. I don't see any real point playing out the Razorverge Thicket, even though I'm not likely to be using mana because the game is not going to be lasting that long. So I could use a treasure here. I don't think I will. I'd rather keep it around to sack to a Fountainport. So let's do a bit of thinking. So I could play... I have access to up to 8 mana. I could play Caretaker's Talent, copy the treasure token, make it 9 mana, activate the incubator. And if need be, I could sacrifice a token with Fountainport, which isn't the worst choice. But at this point, assuming they do have the Monstrous Rage, I just need to kill them before they draw a haste creature. Overlord. Well, now I'm playing that instead. Using up my treasures, which sucks, but I'm getting a real creature out. So even if they have a haste creature and Monstrous Rage, I can hopefully only take maybe 10 damage. Not a haste creature. Although, not something I can even attack through. It is simply too big. I am going to split up here instead of Sunfall because of the mouse problem. As said, I have access to 6 mana. So I can activate the incubator. And at the end of their turn, make a fish. On my turn, I can activate Caretaker's talent. I could have made the fish here. I haven't made a token yet, but no point in tapping out. This is, without a doubt, one of the strangest games against red aggro that I've played. Torch the tower. That's something that the red aggro decks have also been picking up on. Luminous Rebuke is huge. Okay, 2 copies. A little bit of a misclick. Gonna make a fish here. Gonna use up one of my Fountainports so I still have colored mana. Maybe I find an Overlord. Maybe I do find an Overlord. The question is, do I tap out when they could be pulling a haste trample creature to kill us? I think the answer is yes. I actually have to win the game. And it's unlikely for them to be able to kill us, even a haste Swift Spear or the mouse. I can upgrade this, make my fish bigger. I don't see the point. I kill in 2 turns either way. This just lets me hold up more mana. Okay, Get Lost is nice. I have access to 12 mana. I don't need to play the 4th Fountainport. The 3 will do. Okay, we got him. So the red aggro decks are some of the harder ones for this specific variant. The mono white token control deck does very well against red aggro. This deck does not do so well because you lose access to the actual good cheap removal like laydown arms. You can't really play laydown arms with this many non-planes. We have 8 planes. It's just not enough. So against red aggro, I basically take out the token package. And I just try to survive and do my thing. I can still win quite easily with Beza, Baloth, and Overlord. I do like keep 1 Caretaker's talent in. It's just a really good card. Sideboarding is actually quite tough. I prefer Beans over Caretaker's talent because you play Beans on turn 2, which is a lot less dangerous than turn 3. And it actually does something the turn you play it. We have removal. Okay, well. I could not ask for a better hand. We could ask for a better hand if we had a second green. But we have a cheap answer, we have a big answer, we have a very big answer. Okay, you don't love to see that. But we have a good hand. We can still be active. Ooh, not a good sign. Burst Lightning. Not a bad sign. Could be worse. Not the worst sign. So it feels like I have nothing good to do here. I could play the Overlord. I might play the Overlord. So I can't play the Elspeth Smite on the Challenger. I can play the Luminous Rebuke on the Challenger, of course. That may not work if they have a Snakeskin Veil. So being able to hold up 2, I could play Split Up, although Split Up doesn't exactly put me in a better position. One comment I've heard from a Worlds player is that Magic is a lot more high variance than it used to be. You are no longer allowed to just constantly make the slow, I'll get there eventually play and win. You need to push through the play that actually lets you win the game. You need to play the Overlord. You need to set yourself up to win. Because you can't lock these red aggro decks down anymore. I'm just going to take them off the board. No need to be silly about it. I kill the Challenger here because they have Rock-Face Village. They did not play a second haste creature, which bodes well for them not hitting me too hard. Plus, they didn't seem to have a stop on attacks. Oh, if they just activate the Innkeepers, I love it. Okay. You don't love to see that one, but it's not the worst thing in the world. As long as they're not attacking. So I do want to be able to hold up everything. I could also just... I could play the Overlord as a blocker. Hold up a single Elspeth Smite. And with the way they've been playing, it looks likely that it's going to be able to hold the line. Another thing with these Paw Patch Recruit versions, they typically only play 2, but I could see some people moving up to even 4 copies. That's not a good sign. That's very much not a good sign. They are feeling confident to hit us. We can no longer play Elspeth Smite. All their stuff is going to have Ward. I'm hoping what happens is they attack with everybody. I block the Paw Patch Recruit. Well, that's a bit scary. Oh my goodness. Paw Patch Formation. So I could smite a recruit. It does not reduce the amount of damage I take. So I don't think I'm going to do it. Alright, we need a Sunfall, we need a Beza. I'm holding the Smites to be able to answer the Heartfire hero. Let's see, how much mana do we have? Access to 8 mana, could use 3. I'm thinking all this does is draw a card. So I'd rather hold out for a turn. They pass priority. I'm putting a stop on their main phase. Because if they pass priority to me, I'm going to be killing the talent. Alright. Am I killing the talent? I'm killing the talent. Well, I do get 2 map tokens. Creature you control. I have to kill the talent anyway, because I can't deal with all their ward effects. Alright. Yeah, buff your guys. Heartfire hero, what a powerful 1-drop. Burst lightning. Not a good sign. Not a good sign. So it seems I'm about dead. Seems I'm very dead. Can I even survive this? I need to kill that. But I can't kill that without using Smite on it. I can't kill anything without the paw patches. It seems I'm dead. I could block this. Plus it seems like they have something. I think our best bet is that they use the paw patch triggers poorly. And we get to do stuff. It doesn't seem like they're gonna let that happen. Unfortunately. Our best bet would for them to be on the Heartfire or the block token, but that wouldn't make a lot of sense. Okay. We're dead. Yeah, it's a tough matchup. Even the slower versions are kinda tough. Kinda tough. Alright. I'll run it back. Hopefully we pick up a Sunfall if they have a flood the board draw like that. Or maybe they just don't draw Heartfire and they don't hit us for our entire life total. Removal, Painlands, Frillback. Except for the fact that it has no card draw. We do have good answers. We do have an Overlord. We do have a Sunfall. We have just about everything we want except for lands that don't kill us. Which, you know. Do I just let that hit me? I don't think I do. There's a lot of questions with the Overlord when you impend it, and will you actually need the extra mana the turn after? Because I could have played... Okay. That was a bit surprising. That was surprising. I'm gonna impend the Overlord. They do get to put a counter on the Hired Claw here. Okay. That's fine. So we have the Rebuke. We have an answer for an Innkeeper's Talent. We have an answer for all of that. So they were afraid of Elspeth's Smite, which is a valid thing to be afraid of. A pretty easy Sunfall. Lands off the top are not great, but at least they surveil and could hopefully dig us to something good. You don't even surveil. Okay, can't say no to the guy that gains life. Not going to start attacking quite yet. I'm just going to make a treasure token. Alright, well, it seems the treasure token did him in. Strange matchup, but we did it. Hooray. Okay, we are back. We are on the draw. We have a weird hand. A good hand against any creature deck, but if they're on domain, we kind of meet a terrible end. Okay, creature deck. You know, for a second, I saw the Omniscience sleeves and thought, oh no, they're on Omniscience combo. Feels terrible getting rid of a talent, but I need a land here. Oh. So this is the mono blue Arcanis shenanigan deck. So they play Arcanis the Omnipotent, Prophet's Memory, Eidetic Memory, and Agatha's Soul Cauldron to give their creatures counters and draw a whole bunch of cards. I've seen it once before. It's an interesting deck. I'm tempted to just kill this. Not taking 3 damage is really nice. And being able to play my Caretaker's Talent without a care in the world is also really nice. I say without a care in the world, but... So if I took 3 damage there, and then I'd be taking 3 more damage from it this turn. That's 6 extra damage. And then I'd still have to answer it. Yep. Yeah, so they play the Scholar. What else they got? Oh. Alright, Spectral Sailor's a new one. Yeah, they make some big sirens. I'd like a land here. Do I have to suck it up and say, hey, I'm dying? I don't think I do. So I play the Overlord. Even if I don't hit a land, it's 2 lands over 2 turns because of the Caretaker's Talent. If I do hit a land, I will have 6 mana next turn and I can double split up. I kind of like that. Again, it's a high variance play with potential high upside. I'm doing this now to have access to as much mana as possible the next turn. It seems unlikely for them to draw 7 cards and kill me. Alright, another Scholar. A little bit scary, a little bit scary. But not too scary. Wow, have they discarded like, yeah, a whole bunch of islands? Another island? They are good at that. Interesting. So if I pick up a land, I'm obviously destroying all untapped creatures. And then I could play Beza, which does not much. I could impend the Overlord, which gives me blockers into 2 creatures, and it's unlikely that I die. Kind of like that. Again, I love the play patterns of the Overlords are really good when you don't use Zer to cheat them ahead, because there's so much that goes into planning ahead, and when they come in off impending, they're very fun cards until you play them and then you play Zer and you win the game for free. That's a lot less interesting. But playing them here, a lot of fun. They land. Would be a bit bizarre if they just had 3 lands. Especially since I doubt that deck would be anything more than maybe 23, 24 lands. With looting effects, you typically want less lands, but with strict card draw, you typically want more. Okay. A little bit scary. Not too scary. Ooh, Rona. Surely they can't deal with both my creatures. There he is. The man himself, Arcanis. So a really neat trick is putting the counter from Agatha's on Rona and having Arcanis so you can draw, you know, every card ever printed. Unsummon? Floodma. Alright. I don't mind this. Not much choice. I do not mind going to 1 life here. So I destroy all tapped creatures. Tapped creatures are gone. Well, if I'm going... So I can play Beza. Kiora is going to attack, but I don't much care about the 8/8 because I have fish to block it forever. I need to hold removal to get rid of Arcanis because our opponent drawing 3 cards a turn is a little too much. Tapped creatures, get out of here. I play my land. And my overlords get 1 turn closer to entering. So, obviously it's very tempting to keep Arcanis on top for our opponent when they have 6 lands, but at the same time, thinking we wouldn't be able to deal with a goofy, over-the-top big guy, you know, I'll hold on to the get lost. Take him off the board fully. Draw an extra card, get my overlord in. And I'll put down a carrot cake. And I misclicked. I did not mean to keep that plains. If you are in this situation, do not click as fast as I do. Do not keep the plains. Alright, I can get rid of the plains here. I can... see, I planned for this. I knew I had the extra scry, and I knew the card beneath it was one I wanted. See? It's called planning ahead. I can buff all my tokens, swing for 6, 12, 19, which isn't terrible. Then I can have Get Lost. Yeah. I'm probably going to make a fish token, go for the chump. I will kill their other creature. And I will win the game. Plain and simple. I can't even make a fish. So if I give them... That's weird. If I kill the Rona... Well, I'll kill it on upkeep after taps. You can't make a fish. Alright, they went out on their own terms. Can't hate them for that. So, this deck, right? I've only played against it once. But I would like to think that Rest in Peace. It answers Kiora, and it answers the main threat of the deck. I don't hate Elspeth Smite. I don't think I need Authority. They're mostly flyer deck. Vivien could do something. Yeah, Vivien... She's a 5-mana card, but she is an answer. Beza against a million flyers doesn't feel amazing. Again, I think they're an aggro deck, so I'm going to cut, you know, some of my ground cards. Season of the Burrow as well. When your opponent isn't destroying your cards, I could be countering them, but Season of the Burrow feels really bad to get countered. I could... Okay, Frillback. Now that I think about it, Frillback's kind of good. It answers Profts, it answers the Cauldron, it exiles their graveyard. Realistically, Vivien... actually, if they're just making a really big creature, Vivien's quite good. What else don't I want? I typically don't like Sunfall against creature decks, but it's a good answer. Although maybe 4. They don't really make tokens, they just kind of play creatures and make them big. So 1 for 1ing our opponent is probably good enough. I would imagine this is also a very good matchup. They're a heavy creature-based deck, but they're not all too aggressive. So if we just, you know, sort of play our game, do exactly what we want to do already. Well, can't say no to the... Can't say no. We have the Rest in Peace, we have a couple lands, we have a Get Lost, we have a Talent. Interesting. I don't think I... Okay, well... I was gonna say, I don't think I want to play the Rest in Peace yet. I'd rather just hold up Get Lost, but... drawing Beanstalk made my turn a little bit easier. Okay, Scholar. You know what would make my next turn easy? Drawing a green Overlord. Oh, there's kind of a lot of islands. Can't get away with it. So I could set up the Caretaker's Talent. Which won't do anything for a few turns. I could hold up removal if they just try to buff the Scholar a ton. Don't hate that. I don't care about 4 damage. I'd rather get a good split up. Interesting. Oh, now I'm just killing that. They don't have haste creatures. So, I mean, they could make a fish. Sure, whatever. But they're not gonna pull something crazy out. I didn't pinned my Overlord. So that was another reason to not play the Caretakers. Kill something, establish an Overlord onto an empty board state. Ah! Forgot about that card. Hate that card. I'm so sick of Tidebinder. Oh, there's the Cauldron. Are they gonna rip an Arcanis out of nowhere? No. Okay. 3 mana. That looks like a second Tidebinder, if you asked me. Play this, Surveil. You know what would be funny? They could... I can't say no to that guy. They could counter the enter the battlefield effect of Rest in Peace. To keep their 2 islands in the graveyard. Bet you didn't see that one coming. I probably did see that one coming. I wonder what their response is. I'm a little bit surprised. I've seen this card played. I hate it. I think it's really bad. Manifest that. Against a counterspell deck, I could Rebuke right now. And they're going to be buffing the Fear of Imposters anyway, because it's smaller. So I'll take care of the Tidebinder. Have a very good card under my manifest. Also, a note for Game 3. They have a lot more ground creatures than I was prepared for. Arcanis to end me? I hope not. Oh, Arcanis. Alright. It's only 3 cards. Luckily we played Up the Beanstalk, which draws the same number. Roughly. If not a little bit more. 5 +1/+1 counters. Well, you're a turn too late. It seems I don't have a choice. I would like to take you off the board, opponent. If they'll let it happen. They will. We gotta live. We gotta hope they don't have a Spectral Sailor. Or another Tidebinder. Alright. Okay, I wasn't ready for that one. That one caught me by surprise. Well, if there's one thing to be said about this opponent, they are full of surprises. I mean, I expect them to play this card, but I'm a little bit surprised to see it post-board. Alrighty. So we need an answer for the Cauldron itself. You really do need an answer for the Cauldron itself. Okay. Wow, that is a lot of text on one card. Ouch. Unfortunately, I can't even aim untapped. Because they can just tap it. Alright, best bet. They aren't ready for this. They were ready for this. We have the Overlord coming in. We could... We cannot play Vivien. Alright, rest in peace. Alright. Playing this game makes me think we want Tear Asunder. Ooh. Forgot about that one. That is quite an impressive setup. I think that makes me want every answer. Kind of want Beza. And kind of... You seem horrifically slow, Vivien. What else seems horrifically slow? Smite seems a bit weak. What else? You know, I can't convince myself to play 3 Beza. I just can't do it. We need to answer their creatures and not just put blockers in front of them because of how evasive they are. Can't bring myself to do it. It has removal. It has a bit of digging. It has a green Overlord. It has a Sunfall, which is not terrible. Green Overlord, a lot better on the play. Can't be Tidebindered. And we have a Carrot Cake. I don't think you can ever turn down a Fountainport in this deck, even if you're looking for, like, an Up the Beanstalk. It is kind of your Up the Beanstalk. So what do they have? Bloodpit's Drowner? A counterspell? Counterspell or Floodpit's Drowner? Either way, I'm still gonna play my cards. Oh! That's kind of weird. They are consistent with the memory, at least. Very consistent. Which is bad for me. I don't want to see that. If there's any card I don't want to see them being consistent with, it is the basis of their entire deck. Luckily we have a talent. We have some Get Losts. Get Lost, an absolutely horrible card. Unfortunately, is somehow White's best removal spell. Still somehow good enough. Or maybe they're tapping out. Only discarding one. 1 mana. Sunfall, sorry, Spell Pierce is not legal in this format. Which means... I guess so. I don't want to attack. I know I get 1 damage through, but I shrink my guy. Yeah, there's the Sailor. Okay, so I need a Tear Asunder. I need... What do I need? I need an Overlord. I need a Tranquil Frillback. I basically need something which does something. So, okay, a little bit scary. Technically does something. Although I might just be hitting them for 5 and holding up 2 removal spells. I do not mind hitting them for 5. I'll let them know I mean business. Or let myself get Flood Pit Drowned. Either way, I'm doing something. You can't hate me for trying. Alright. I attack. I do damage. When everything else fails, sometimes the best thing to do is just win the game. Because I have 2 Get Losts, I don't want to run one into a counterspell here. I'd rather run one into a counterspell on their turn. Let's give it a try. Make them use it. Okay, no mana. Now, 4 map tokens is a lot. Luckily, the make a guy and gain life are separated on the Carrot Cake. Alright, definitely take a second Carrot Cake. One of the best draws in this deck once you have Caretaker's talent out. It is a draw 2, it's make a bunch of guys. I could go level 4, but I don't think I want to do that yet. There's the Flood Pit Drowner. I'm still attacking. Still getting in there. So it's unlikely that they can both get Arcanis into the grave and do something with it, so I don't mind sort of dumping my hand. I could do this. I could also just Carrot Cake, which isn't terrible. I get 2 bunnies. I do get to kill something. It looks like they want to use Fountainport to draw a card. I won't say no to a Sunfall. I love me a good insurance policy. Alright, what you get? Yeah, they're gonna use the Fountainport to draw an extra card. They might also have a Tishana's Tidebinder. Although I think if they had that, they may have used it on the Carrot Cake. Right now they're just using them. Now they want to kill me. Alright. Not a great mail from them. Or, sorry, not a great card on top. I'm at 12, I'm going to be gaining even more life. I don't need to kill that. If they play a Kiora, if they play out multiple creatures... let's start by cracking the cake. I wouldn't hate a land here. I definitely don't hate an Elspeth Smite. You know, I think I keep all the bunnies around. And I don't let auto-tapper ruin my life. And I just keep winning the game. If they want to spend more than half their mana every turn to draw an extra card, we sort of just get to force them to lose the game, which isn't terrible. Okay. And we get to sit back with 2 removal spells. Ooh, Fear of Imposters. Are they going for it? Are they actually going to try to win the game? They're still 5 damage off? That doesn't quite do it. 4 damage off? So what do they need? A Brainstorm? A card which is not currently legal? Land? Probably useful to kill. You know, they could activate all the maps and then, I don't know, play an Opt. Scholar. Not the best. I think if they keep the Scholar, it's just over for them. Yeah. Okay. So, can they even attack? I don't think they can. How do they deal with 4 lethal attackers? Yeah, Drowner's coming in. Probably the... Oh, no, not the Sailor. Definitely trying to kill that. For sure, just gonna kill that. Use of my mana. Rude. And what do I get? Nothing. They're tapped out, so I'm still killing it. They have to block my 4 lethal attackers. Do I have any way of killing them? Doesn't look like it. So they block my 4 lethal attackers. I play an Overlord. I'm really not too scared of just about any card they could have, so I am just going to keep doing my thing. It's nice when you know your opponent can't have a sweeper and you can just sort of play as many creatures as you want. Also notably, no lands this time. Alright, can you deal with 6 attackers? They put an Aetherize, good for them. I don't know why they would do that. Keeps them alive. I say, interesting tidbit, if you guys press QQ, you can tap all your mana like that. I don't think I'm going to get a chance because they're dead. But I would also like to float. Oh. They floated their mana and then walked away. Not very polite, but... okay. Ah, they came back. You'll love to see it. Alright, rank 11 maybe? What an exciting rank up. Hello everybody, and thank you for making it to this part of the video. If you've enjoyed this far, do check out another video of mine. I'm uploading videos more consistently these days, and I talk about a lot of decks, especially those which I think are particularly strong in the current meta. So, final closing points on this deck, Green-White Tokens. The reason I said I've played this deck in the past, but sort of benched it until now, is because it's a meta call. It's very strong against certain decks. In fact, it's quite punishing against those bounce decks, because they don't deal with Up the Beanstalk all too well. However, it's a bit weak against combo, it's a bit weak against super aggressive decks, which we had a lot of up until recently. So, play this if your meta calls for it. I think the meta calls for it right now. Tokens is back, baby. This is what we should be doing. But don't be too upset if this deck falls out of the meta fairly soon. With that said, I hope you enjoyed, and goodbye.